Well, thanks very much to Labour Movement for Europe for organising this event tonight. I'm proud to be a member of the LME, and also I think it's important that we build on the organisation, and I've discussed this with David. It's really important that we make links with the whole of the Labour Movement as much as possible, including the trade unions, and get the maximum possible support for our shared vision of the European project, particularly in the coming year. So in terms of the three issues we've been asked to talk about, firstly, why is it important to be in the European Union, and why is it important to work together at an EU and more international level? Well, firstly, Ed Balls said that he was in favour of the EU for hard-hearted rather than romantic reasons. I mean, actually, I'm fairly in favour of it for pretty romantic reasons. I believe passionately that we need to work together on an international basis in favour of solidarity, peace and cooperation, and that's what the EU is all about. So the ideology of it is something we need to back. We cannot be an isolationist country. We have to be in favour of European cooperation and all of the principles, the social, environmental and principles of the European Union. Now, in terms of the benefits, these are very well known, but we know very much that the rights from Europe, social Europe, environmental rights, consumer protections, the sheer volume of the important aspects that we've had in this country, simply because of the EU, that don't get enough attention. And for all of us in the coming year to make that case when we're talking to voters here in London and more widely is very, very important. And then, in more detail, why is it important to vote Labour for the European Parliament, and what is the Labour position on Europe all about? And this is something, I hope we will have a European manifesto. We had one last time. It wasn't terribly well publicised, but I think it's important that we have that. In terms of London, which is where we're all standing, we need to focus on the issues that are relevant to people when we talk to them. So, jobs, growth, welfare cuts, and how the Europe agenda impacts on that. So, for example, actually in Europe there's something important you can do. We can raise money through a financial transaction tax. We can redistribute that in London, in deprived areas, through the EU structural funds. We can get added investment for projects on transport, on green projects to support small and ethnic minority businesses, and it is incredibly important that we do that, because London is suffering very, very badly from the cuts, more than any other region other than the North East. So in terms of the manifesto, what would be in it for Europe, we want to say that the EU powers are incredibly useful for us. So, for example, issues which very much play out here in London on human trafficking. There was a report from the Centre for Social Justice in March showing how terribly inadequately we're dealing with that, and what a problem it is. We need European powers, we need European cooperation. I want to see issues like tackling human trafficking mentioned and talked about, because they're not talked about nearly enough, as well as protecting and improving employment rights. We know, for example, the working time opt-out. We still have an opt-out. Why do we have an opt-out? It doesn't make any sense. In London, at least 1 in 5 people work more than 48 hours a week. How can that be right? I would like us, as a Labour Party, to say that we will go to Brussels and renew the challenge for that, and renew the challenge to make sure that it's a more comprehensive piece of legislation. So, in terms of the third area, how to fight UKIP and Euroscepticism, this is particularly critical at the moment, because we know how much the media is against us. We know that we've seen it recently this week because of the polling that's been done. And we know that in the media everyone's saying, well, a majority of the British public now think we should be out of Europe, and then the issues around immigration are being whipped up. It's absolutely the case that Labour councils all around the country, to the extent that they can, should be prioritising social housing, investment in sport places, the kinds of issues that put pressure on our public services. And it's not going to be easy, because we know we've got hostile Tory government who are trying to stop us doing this, but we need to have the answers on the doorstep, as well as the very important local issues. I mean, I campaigned, as did others, in the Longbridge by-election in Barking recently, where the UKIP were absolutely stuffed. And the reason they were stuffed... Okay, I'll just finish on this. The reason they were stuffed is we talked about the concrete things, bins, housing, all of the things that the Labour Council had done to sort it out. So those are my 3 things for how to deal with the campaign going forward.